Okay, welcome back. Let's talk about anxiety and depression and why they are so often such a struggle. It is because of a fundamental flaw in the way it is understood and approached. Depression and anxiety are not in our heads. They're not about flawed thinking patterns. Neither are they random chemical fluctuations that just take us over. Depression and anxiety are body experiences that naturally arise from the ways in which we don't connect well with our internal emotional reality. It comes from multiple variations of not feeling safe. Depression is not excessive sadness, it's the depletion of our internal resources that results from stuffed, packed away emotions. The tension of the stuckness of those places eats up our energy. Furthermore, bodies don't like stuck tension and feeling. They're continually trying to move it up and out. Anxiety is the other side of the coin. It's the inherent state of not feeling connected and safe, and the attempts by the body to clear out tension, but in ways that don't work very well. That tension we carry looks for cracks in our defensive armor, and when it finds one, it can come pouring out through that crack. That's what an anxiety or panic attack is. The body trying to rid itself of tension in the only way it can find. Because our distance from ourselves, our disconnection, is the essential problem. It leaves us living up in our heads trying to figure things out. When we're in a state of anxiety, for instance, our focus is almost always on what we think we're anxious about, all right? In other words, there's a story in our heads that's playing out about a perceived danger or threat. This story, rolling over and over and over in our heads, is the general state of our minds when we're anxious. It's like a little rat on one of those spinning wheels. There used to be a famous commercial years ago with a frying pan and an egg, and it said, pointing to the egg, "Here's your brain." And then it would splat the egg onto the sizzling frying pan and say, "Here's your brain on drugs." It's like that. That spinning mind, the little rat on the wheel, is our brains on a body full of emotional tension. The brain is doing what brains do, which is to read the data and information from the body and try to make sense out of it. It reads a lot of stuck tension down below the neck and says, "Ooh, boy, something's really wrong." And it then sets about trying to fix it by doing what brains do: think and try to figure it out. The problem is that the brain is being handed a problem that is not of it, and it doesn't know how to fix it. But it certainly tries. That spinning mind is what we call obsessive thinking, obsessive worry. It's the brain doing its best with a problem that doesn't belong to it, but nevertheless, a problem it has been handed. The problem has to be handed back downstairs to the body. The body is where the problem starts, and the body knows what to do and how to heal it. When we stay up in our heads, our bodies tend to stay frozen. The tension stays stuck, and it just compounds. It often doubles up as anxiety about the anxiety itself, or depression about our depression. Our brains create stories looking for the cause of the anxiety, and that's the heart of the problem. If the perceived thing or person or event or problem outside of us, or inside of us, if we look at ourselves from a disconnected state, if that's what's causing the anxiety, then there's no other logical solution than to try to fix that thing, right? So from there, we go into control mode. We have to figure out how to make that thing get better. So we start trying to change it any way we can. We have lots of perceived problems that we can point at: relationship problems, work problems, finances, you name it. We carry a list of problems in our heads each day to solve, and we spend a lot of our time playing whack a mole with all these problems. If they are the source of our anxiety, then we can feel easily overwhelmed because guess what? The moles keep popping up. Life is a never ending series of challenges. So while we're playing whack a mole with all those challenges, there's also a carrot dangling up there as a reward that we don't really fully acknowledge, but it's there. And it says to us, clear all these problems out and everything will finally be okay. And that carrot keeps dangling and we keep believing it and we keep playing. All the while, our deeper tension and anxiety doesn't go away. One of the biggest problems that can arise is when the perceived threat is noticeably out of our control and cannot be altered. Think of something like the pandemic. Since we can't control it, now we're really in a pickle. If this thing is what's causing my anxiety and it can't be altered, I'm left with no other alternative but to just hunker down in protective survival mode, hold my breath, deal with the roiling resultant anxiety, an anxiety we feel can't be changed. We're just left with no way out. So, what does that provoke? More anxiety. It can spiral rather quickly. For some of us, it might not come out as a full blown panic attack or as the state we label clinical depression. It may just present as a low level state of the jitters and a lack of sense of peace that runs underneath our day. Just this sense that something's wrong and needs to be fixed. Something's wrong and needs to be fixed. Sometimes the problem isn't perceived to be outside of us, but lurking down inside our bodies, such as extreme worries over health concerns, where every single ache or pain is instantaneously, in our minds, a death threat of cancer until proven otherwise. Every time there's a new ache or strange sensation, the problem of that body fear is handed up to our brains. Then the brain starts trying to solve it. So now we've got to chase down that problem with vigilance. So we start exploring all the possibilities and search the internet and look up every single possible outcome, good or bad, and what could this be? And we try to figure out what we have to do then to get an answer. Our anxiety won't rest until we get that answer. Sometimes we do. We go through a health workup, for instance, and find out that everything's okay. So now we finally relax. We feel calm again. We temporarily got the carrot until the next ache or pain arises. The solution that our brains employed, chasing down the story as the seeming cause of the anxiety and setting about the task of fixing it or answering the dilemma, is only a temporary fix. It doesn't really solve our anxiety issue at all. It's not any different than we're taking a drink or popping a pill or going shopping or eating a pile of cookies. Any of the thousands of ways that we cut ourselves off from the body tension that's there so that we can temporarily feel better. We end up calling these temporary diversions and fixes addictions. and we all have them, all of us. Then those inevitable stressors of our lives, the events, the wounds, the losses, the body sensations, the disappointments, they just become triggers that bring that underlying sense of unease up to the surface. Stress points in relationships become much more hair triggered. Sleep is often much more disrupted, frequently with unpleasant dreams or nightmares. The good news is that this whole perspective, that it's these things beyond our control, these things outside of us, or the sensations that scare us inside of us, that these are the things that are causing our anxiety. This perspective, blessedly, is not true. Anxiety and depression are not being caused by the events or happenings outside of us. Anxiety is a perception. It's a physiologic state of tension and fear, a core sensation of not feeling safe. It starts in the body, not in the head. So, tomorrow we will continue with our discussion of anxiety and depression. For the moving forward task today, spend time really considering how you may have approached any feelings of anxiety or depression in the past. What happens with your thinking? And consider moving down to a heart-based connection, coming down right into the body chest area, maybe even putting your hand over your heart. Take deep breaths like we've practiced, deep abdominal breathing, and consider that there may just be something there that needs loving, compassionate attention, not from a mental place, but from your heart. And just practice that. See you on the next video.